Hi, and welcome to another episode of Ask Clever Over Coffee, How AI Built This. I am the co-host, John Marino, and I'm here with my co-host, ChatGPT, which is Billie Darkenwald.
Good afternoon, guys.
And today we have a very special guest who has been on the show before, but we're super excited because she's got some really cool things that she is launching, and she wanted to give us the exclusive. So we're super, super excited to have Ali Farnsworth.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. And let's just get right into it. Why don't you just go through, give us a quick bio about your background, and then we're going to find out a little bit more about a little fun exclusive that we have coming from you. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. So my background is heavily in sales, but also entrepreneurialism. So I've had 3 different ventures that I've had a lot of fun owning and running as CEO, but also my passion is outside sales in technology. And so those things all kind of have meshed together over the years, pretty much.
That's awesome. Yeah, in full disclosure, Ali and I have been friends for 15 years.
I think so.
She used to work for this tech company called MentorMate.
Yep.
And she threw on an amazing event and pulled it all together with all these huge corporate brands within 60 days. And I was so inspired. It inspired me to do some things along those lines, but never at that scale. But it was super impressive, people you know and the network you keep. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Ask Clever Over Coffee, How AI Built This, explores AI through in-depth interviews with industry professionals across a broad spectrum. John Marino and ChatGPT, voiced by the wonderful Billie Darkenwald, dive deep into common fears and concerns, as well as the immense potential AI has to change so much of what's happening in business, politics, and everyday life. Ask Clever Over Coffee, How AI Built This is your go-to source for information about AI that is both current and relevant. Hey there, do you own a business, but maybe you don't want to do your own podcast? Maybe you're a little camera shy? If your company would like to sponsor this show and get your message in front of our growing and motivated audience, click the link to Divine Fox Productions. Or maybe you're ready to jump in and start your own show. We've conveniently made it so you can click the very same link to Divine Fox Productions. How clever was that?
Well, it's exciting times in AI, and I'm glad you're back to talk more about AI and what you've been working on. But, before we get into that, I just wanted to, there's so much going on. We're at the beginning of the new year in 2025. We have a new administration in office. And then, of course, there's a lot happening in AI just in general. Just recently, DeepSeek came out, and they were like shaking up the whole industry. And it's been really interesting. What are your thoughts about DeepSeek and what's going on with them?
So first of all, for the record, for everybody listening, this is literally about 2 days after it was publicly announced. So all of us here are still kind of learning about it.
Nope.
I've actually used ChatGPT to ask questions about it and done some other research. I mean, it's just so crazy. I mean, the idea is obviously that they built this thing faster, less expensive, less servers, less computing power than all the other LLMs that are out there.
Yeah.
And so it is sort of like a national threat or something along those lines, because it's basically totally leapfrogged us.
Sure.
And leapfrogged everybody else.
Sure.
China did, basically.
Right.
And so that's what's so interesting about it is now everybody's kind of whispering well, do they actually have more computing power than what they're disclosing and all this stuff?
Yeah.
All this in and out talk, about it. So that's kind of what I know. And the other thing I learned is that it's very good at the deeper searches. So clinical research, papers, those kinds of deep research topics that
Sure.
can really get in and into the nitty gritty of deep details. And I think that's why the word deep's in the word, in the name.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of interesting. I think the other LLMs we're all used to using are more for day-to-day tasks and little looking up things or, kind of keeping us going during the day. But
Right.
This is more interesting because it really can go deeper into topics that are very deep
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
specialized. So I thought that was really interesting because I don't think we really think of the LLMs as like a deep research tool. But now I think that capability is there.
So when you go to ChatGPT, what did you prompt ChatGPT to learn about DeepSeek?
Yeah.
Like what did you do? Because we have ChatGPT right here.
Yes.
I'm thinking maybe we should prompt her and just see what ChatGPT has to say about DeepSeek.
yeah, do it, and I'll tell you what I heard, and then let us know ChatGPT.
Well, what did
the
you say?
latest responses.
Give us the prompt.
So the prompt was, how do ChatGPT, Claude AI, and DeepSeek compare? And then the second one I did was, how is DeepSeek special?
How is DeepSeek special?
So the first one would be how do ChatGPT and Claude.
Claude.
AI and DeepSeek compare. So then I
Yep.
was like kind of curious about like, why is this, I want to know first of all, why is this such a big deal?
Yeah. You know what I love about that prompt, though, is that it is not a technical question, and yet because of the world we live in, you can ask it anything, and you can use your conversational voice in order to really get the answer that you're looking for, and in the conversational tone. That's what I love about ChatGPT when you're talking to ChatGPT.
Yes.
But I'm very curious to see the response that ChatGPT has.
It's still responding. Hold, please.
Please
No,
hold.
there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 tables with various information in it, and then final verdict. So I'll just give you kind of a
High level. Yeah, just a real high level.
Yep. So the general capabilities, it kind of tells you what each one does, the content length, reasoning and comprehension, creativity and writing. They all, so they say ChatGPT is excellent, Claude AI is strong, and DeepSeek is good.
Ooh.
So
That's so
ChatGPT,
interesting.
ChatGPT is maybe a little biased.
I think
would say-
ChatGPT is getting an attitude about this.
Yeah.
ChatGPT
I mean,
feels
we
threatened.
are competitive here, so.
Well,
And then,
yeah.
and then a couple more, just the strengths and best use cases. So that's kind of interesting. It's kind of long, so we can go back to that one later. But and how they handle AI in sales and business, AI for sales prospecting, leads scoring, prediction, automation, AI assistance, and they just have, of course, ChatGPT is excellent, good, best. Oh, best. DeepSeek AI would be best for researching potential leads and pulling deep insights. And then just going down to the final verdict for conversational AI automation, ChatGPT, for safe and ethical decision-making with long context retention, Claude AI. For deep web searches and research-heavy tasks is DeepSeek AI.
Interesting. Now, ChatGPT, the next question is, what makes DeepSeek special? I'm very curious on that. So the response from that, though, is very similar to what you were saying about what DeepSeek is. It's a
Yes.
deep research tool.
Yes.
And I'm kind of curious how this will play legally because of copyright issues. And of course, it's also a company in China. So a little bit different or more difficult to hold their feet to the fire on who owns what information and how much they could pull. But it sounds like, they're circumventing what OpenAI has really spent a lot of time trying to navigate the waters, give credit, and not steal people's work, versus DeepSeek is really, they're allowed to kind of do whatever they want, don't you think?
Yes, I thought it was so interesting that the prompt gave me that Claude is ethical, basically. It'll be more cautious in its answers, which I guess I knew that from using it, but I just never thought of it that way. And then you think DeepSeek is going into scientific research,
Yeah.
which who knows? I mean, I guess if things are available to the LLM, then they exist somewhere publicly, sort of. But I mean, scientific research could be white papers and other things that are protected or that are copywritten or other things
Right.
protected. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. What does this open up now? And then maybe not the same ethics or not the same guidelines that we have. So then what does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Well, yeah, let's ask ChatGPT the answer.
Yeah,
What makes
so-
DeepSeek special?
Giving you another high level, there's 4 different areas that ChatGPT talks about. Deep web and specialized search goes beyond surface level information, then kind of describes further into that. Advanced AI for prospecting, lead generation. Superior data mining for sales and business intelligence, then goes into more of that. High precision AI analysis analysis, strong in predictive and analytics and data interpretation. And then AI-powered workflow optimization, customizable AI for workflows. And then after that, it says who should use DeepSeek AI, which is kind of interesting as well. Obviously, sales, marketing teams, researchers and academics, business intelligence professionals, data scientists, legal and compliance teams.
Wow. That's covering everything, a very thorough answer by ChatGPT on not only what its uniqueness is, but also who's the type of person or profile that will be using it going forward. But is that something that you would use? Would you try DeepSeek? Would you practice on it?
So, I mean, like I said, this is very new.
Right.
So I'm just now starting to dig into it, and I actually haven't used it very deeply yet. But what I was thinking is, like, from a sales perspective or prospecting, it'd be really cool to use it for, like, annual reports.
Right.
So, if any Fortune 500 company comes out with an annual report, it can be hundreds of pages long. It's got all these categories. It's got statistics. It's got all this stuff comparing year over year. It's super complicated. And it would be so cool to just be able to, like, dump it in and be like, tell me what are the highlights? Like, what changed from the previous year? Like, what's gone sideways or what's improved? And I think that's the first thing I thought of, is dumping like a deep report in with charts and graphs and statistics and stuff. When you need to research a company, just dump it in and then
just don't make sure you put any financials or password information.
Of course, obviously this would be publicly available information, not your own company's private financials.
Don't be doing that.
We should reiterate that. Don't ever dump private information into an LLM, because it goes through the internet to the public and comes back. So you never want to be throwing that stuff out there.
Just a good reminder, just a nice PSA for everybody paying attention here.
Sometimes it's hard to remember. You're just so used to using it for stuff, and it's like, I can see how people would end up dumping in something, or maybe company data on their clients or something along those lines. You
got to be very careful of what financials you're giving to an LLM because of security purposes, and just be very cognitive of that, because sometimes I think people forget, about the how this information, once you put it in, is being used, and what is yours and what is not yours.
Exactly, and that's a really good topic. There's a lot of ways, just on a tangent, you can go off on your own, is learning about unmasking and or masking data, basically, and then unmasking it again when you put it back. So you would basically, if you have like a table or a spreadsheet, you would not say who the people are or the column names or you would mask everything when you run it through, and then you can fix it when it comes back out.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Good to know. Yes, ChatGPT.
I had one more follow-up question just to see how biased ChatGPT could be. I said, do you like DeepSeek better than ChatGPT? And she said, it depends on the task. For everyday tasks like writing, coding, and sales automation, ChatGPT. For deep research, competitor analysis, and market intelligence, DeepSeek. Combined strengths of both.
Wow,
That's a very
look
good
at
reply.
ChatGPT being diplomatic.
Being very
mature,
diplomatic. Very diplomatic. There's different countries going on here, and a lot of competitiveness. I know Sam Altman came out and said, "Hey, look, it's great to have a competitor in this space, and it will definitely help them as a team to be more competitive, to look at what different ways to keep costs down overall," which is, I think, not a bad thing. It's always good to have competition, but just remember, when you're using different LLMs, let's not put all of our personal info into the LLM, because then you're giving your rights away. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. But this is a good segue to my next question, which is using AI for sales. Like I said before at the top of the show, you have some great new exclusive announcement here to make on our show about using AI for sales. But in general, before we get to what you're going to talk about, I can't wait, so stay tuned for that. But I just want to, in general, Oracle came out with AI agents, and they're using it in their software program for automating repetitive sales tasks and generating intelligence reports. What are your thoughts about where the industry, is going, the software industry is going using AI agents?
Yeah, so I haven't specifically used Oracle's AI, but I've touched it before, but I don't use it daily. And what I was able to kind of see from using it is that it's really interesting because it does have the ability of picking up on customer behavior and sentiment,
Okay.
which is what we talked about in our last podcast together.
That's right.
Like the picking up of sentiment and those kinds of things is something that AI is learning to do. Also, lead scoring. So that's very intricate. I mean, usually you need a human hand on that to some extent. I mean, at least I think so from a sales perspective. Like once you are seasoned as a professional salesperson, you know when you see something, what it is. You kind of know.
Correct.
Like when it comes in, you're like, okay, this is a dead lead or this is something I'm going to pursue. And you kind of have a feel for these things once
Correct.
you are seasoned. But AI has now developed the ability to really do those things to a high degree of accuracy. So I would say I'm cautiously optimistic about Oracle's ability to do that and to lead score properly, where you're not really going in and finding a bunch of them that are wrongly scored. You're basically finding that most of them are correct based on what you would have done as a human. So that's like very interesting to me.
And I got a question for you. So what would you think is the percentage of accuracy where it would be reliable? So like, for example, if you had a brand new assistant come in and you're training this person to lead score,
Yep.
and you're giving them kind of the guidelines of what you've learned along the ways, what have you, right? And percentage-wise, what would you be looking at if that person hit 70% accuracy, 80%? Like what would be the number where you feel like if that person was percentage-wise this percent, you could rely on them?
And I would say you're about right in saying like 70, 80. I think there are nuances that a new assistant or AI might not be able to catch.
Right.
But I would say I would be pretty impressed by 70, 80, and then you can fish out the rest.
So I think for my AI model, if you're doing lead scoring for me, I want you to be 84% accurate.
Okay.
All right. Well, there you go.
So glad you shared that.
I want to make sure it's 84%. If you're not less than that, you're dead to me.
Yeah, okay. Well, wow. That's so harsh. But yeah, and I thought too, another cool thing with Oracle that was really interesting was like being able to suggest products and services to the end customers. So
Sure.
like really being able to read into their behavior, their core business, how they're using your current products to be able to then properly recommend. And it made me think of like when you call the bank, and they're like, okay, do you have a minute? So have you thought about our high yield savings account? Have you thought about, and they don't know who
Right.
you are. They don't care. They don't, they're just told you got to read this thing that's got 5 offerings. Well,
And they probably get a kickback for it, right? If you sign up for whatever they're trying to promote that product, then they get, $5 or $10 or
Probably.
something like that.
yeah, so I do think Oracle's AI really does a good job of like figuring out what you should be actually talking to your client about. And I get interested in that because I do kind of the deeper consultative selling that's more complex. And so having that kind of assistance would be really cool. Like figuring out I sell generally into technology and R&D. And so figuring out like pulling all the sources together and what they're currently using us for and figuring out, based on all this, you really should be talking to them about this thing,
Right.
this topic. So I think it's really cool. I mean, like I said, I don't use it daily, but in the small amount of time I had to look into it, I thought that was really compelling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then also, generative AI is really changing the game. And I noticed that Salesforce has their own Einstein GPT and its role in enhancing customer engagement and automating sales, and then other AI-driven sales tools that are out there. Should salespeople be afraid?
So I have a strong opinion on this, as you can probably guess.
Do share.
Being that this is my profession.
Right.
So first of all, this is a tenet I have tried to implement in my own teams when I've run sales teams, and what I've tried to pass on to leadership in other companies I've been in is that professional, high-level salespeople are wired a certain way, and they
Correct.
are generally hunter mentality, type A. This is it's an innate thing that we can't change. It's just how we are. And because of those personality traits, they have a lot of strengths, but their weaknesses are like things like data entry, those kind of menial tasks are not what they want to be doing. It actually takes away from their productivity,
Right.
takes away from their positive outlook, takes away from a lot of things. So what you want is those people to be able to be in the field, talking to people, doing the things that they want to be doing, and data entry, menial tasks are not the thing you want to have successful salespeople working on. So I'm so thrilled to see that AI is kind of figuring out how to regulate and automate all of the drafting of emails that are kind of repetitive or something that's not really special, data entry into your CRM, cross-selling notifications. So that goes back to what we were talking about before as far as recommending products and services.
Yeah.
One other thing that's really interesting is that Einstein GPT also will tell you like the best times to follow up with that particular client based on how they're interfacing with their emails, their calendar, other things. So it'll tell you like you should delay send this until 3:40 p.m. or whatever. Because
Oh, no
that's when
kidding.
they're more likely to read it.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that's so cool. Like, doesn't everybody want to know this information?
Yeah.
In the past, we've been able to track like emails that were opened or whatever.
I was just gonna mention that
Yeah.
because that's where I like
Yes.
all get excited because I have that on my email, and I do like to know exactly the moment that people open my emails.
It's so cool.
It is.
So I really think, I mean, just speaking from like a very high level, is that
Right.
it'll bring way more productivity to salespeople.
Sure.
And funnily enough, we'll get into what we're going to be talking about, but the effort I've been working on the side is very much about in-person prospecting and in-person correspondence and working in the field. And so I don't think that the human element of sales is going to go away fully for complex sales ever. But I do think that AI is making the job so much better and allowing people to work on higher order things instead of spending 3 hours entering in their notes and their activity from the day and whatever other insights they need to do for their forecasts or their pipeline. So I am all for it. Like, I am all for automating menial tasks that I hate doing and that every high order salesperson hates doing.
Right.
So big fan.
Well, one of the fun parts of AI, of course, is the personalization, right? It doesn't take a lot of time. If you say, hey, I need you to write 10 emails or 10 cover letters to these 10 people, here's a little background in each of the person, go. And this is what I want you to cover. It can do that. And it can do that, in seconds. And, with the next gen of wearable AI, where you could either have, be wearing glasses or what have you, and you could see a screen within your glasses, and you're in meetings, and the AI's prompting you questions to ask, for the prospect, and even giving you tips on what to say for closing statements. Because sometimes salespeople are just terrible at asking for the close, and it is such an important part of the sales process. Is like, great, so how do we get you across the finish line?
Right.
Whoa, who would have thought that? That's like a crazy question to ask, but it's funny. Like, people are just so nervous to ask for money or like, okay, well, what's next steps to start moving forward? So, because, closers just know how to close, but, with all the AI in sales, it's the personalization that's going to really make a difference.
Absolutely, and that's something that I was looking into as well, and something that I've been using more and more is the on-the-fly customization of content and emails to a single customer. So this is individualized, customized to one person. I mean, that's amazing. Marketing can only do so much in creating personas and
Sure.
figuring out what kind of things they should be marketing to that persona. But still, that's an estimate. That's a guess. I mean, they're doing their best to put people into buckets so that they can figure out what to send them in an email or some sort of marketing. So AI has definitely gotten down to the one-to-one personalization, which is
Right.
crazy.
Right.
I mean, it's so cool. And I definitely use it, and I use it as a template I usually edit stuff when I use AI. I don't just dump it in there, but it does give me some cool stuff maybe I didn't think of. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's the correct positioning for this. Like, I forgot about that angle, or, this is a great way to communicate this out. So
Right.
it's amazing what it can do now, down to really like granular levels for one person.
Yeah.
That one person, that's a special person we're talking about, and they're an individual, and they're not necessarily in that persona you thought they were. Here's what you're gonna do, and it's unbelievable.
That is. Well, and I think this is a great segue into our next segment, which is basically why you're here. You've been working on this awesome project, and you're excited to share it with us. And it is about sales. And why don't you tell me a little bit more about what you got cooking?
I will, yeah, thank you. So to back the bus up a little bit, for about 8 years locally here, I had a company called Technology Solutions Group, which was what I called jokingly the other SaaS, sales as a service. Oh. And what we did was we were outside sales reps for local startups and small businesses that didn't want to necessarily hire a sales team or a VP sales. So we then grew into, over 20 reps that were running around in the field to the Fortune 500 companies around here, talking to CIOs, CTOs, other people about all the brands we were carrying. So
Sure.
we were kind of like a manufacturer's rep for lots of different stuff.
Yeah, I remember that. That was exciting times.
It was very cool. It was such a fun venture, and I so enjoyed it. But since I did that, I have a lot of people asking me to consult. So they'll say, I need to launch something, or I have a new startup. Can you help with sales? And I, of course, work at Online Business Systems out of Winnipeg. That's my full-time job, and I can't field those requests. Every now and then I might take a consulting role that's over a weekend or on evenings or something, if it's something little I can tackle to help somebody with like a go-to-market plan or something. But what I decided to do with all these inquiries I'm getting about, like, can you help us, and can you help us bring this to market, and how do we get this socialized? I created a course.
Ooh, that's the exclusive, everybody.
That's the exclusive.
Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so for about 5 or 6 years, I've actually been compiling a bunch of detail around this. So like best practices, tips and tricks, things that work really well in prospecting and in the field. And the training's very much, ironically, focused on in-person interactions. It's not focused on the automations and sending emails and posting stuff. It's very much about the art of being in person and making those personal connections that you really want to be making with people. But I have a chapter in it about AI because AI can help facilitate so many things, from what networking events should you be going to, who's going to be there, the people you're targeting, what events are they going to, what do they care about. It just enhances that in-person relationship so much when you can actually get to know somebody at a deeper level and actually show that you care.
Sure.
That you took the time, even if it is AI.
Yeah.
You took the time to figure out what makes them tick, where they spoke last week, what blog they posted.
Yep.
And AI can really comb for a lot of that stuff now. And so that's part of my course, is using AI not to just write emails and create campaigns and automate a bunch of stuff, not the digital side. It's using the digital side to enhance being in person and forming those really tight relationships that you want to have in your life and in work, business, and lots of other things. So that's...
Now, what's the name of the course?
So it is Prospecting Prosperity. So...
Prospecting Prosperity.
Yes.
And where can people go to find more information about the course?
So the course is published on Stan Store. I think we'll have a link.
Yeah, we'll put a link out there. Yeah, absolutely.
And you can find it there, as well as the ability to have a one-on-one with me if you need kind of more help with a go-to-market plan or advice on how to position your offering in the market. Something along those lines. I've been enabling that just because I know I can squeeze them in on weekends and stuff, or evenings, because I love it so much. So I can kind of fit it in between my day job when it's needed. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So like when people who are brand new to sales and they are intimidated by doing sales, or maybe just like don't have the confidence of where to begin. So a lot of people just start doing networking, right? They go to events. That's, and there's like happy hours, there's tech conferences, there's all sorts of different ways to do networking. What do you feel are some things that good tips that people could use when they're doing in-person networking?
Yep, absolutely. So part of my course is actually helping to quantify these efforts. So, it's a lot of people are just out kind of like slinging things at the wall, seeing what sticks. Like, I'm just going to go to this thing and I'm going to go over here and I don't know, let's just see if that's good. And my course helps to bring a lot of structure to that so that you have like an actual plan for the following 3 months, 6 months, 12 months on why are you going to go to these events? Like, tell me why you're going. Because first of all, you just shouldn't be wasting your time and your resources going to crap. So basically, the course is helping you figure out a strategy around your outside sales activity or your networking activity.
Right.
And even if you're not a salesperson, if you're trying to disseminate an idea or a passion or your startup or something and you're not really a salesperson, it'll still help you kind of classify important activities that you should be doing, and making it so that you are spending your time wisely, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, 2 tips that I can think of just off the top of my head is, one is don't sell to anybody. Don't go, oh, my company does XYZ and explain all the features of your company, because nobody wants to be sold to, And the next thing is to leave a good impression. And so what I love is that you always have something, and I don't know if the camera can pick up on this, but it says, "Hi, I'm Ali Farnsworth. I'm a sales nerd, and this is her business card." And I just love that you do that, because you always are so creative in everything that you do, and you always know how to make an impression. And that's a subtle way of doing it without, like, I know some people, like, they'll go to events and some guys I know, they always wear a certain style jacket, or one guy I know who's in sales always wears a bow tie. Different people either have a look that they go, and that's their presence. Some people have a different type of presence altogether. And then, but when you're going to meet people, there's 2 things that you want to really leave behind. And one is that they remember you, and then the second thing is to not sell to people, is to help other people. And you say, hey, what are your business challenges? How can I help you? And that is really the essence of sales.
So you actually without knowing it, you got to the heart of my training.
Oh.
So, and now you have the secret sauce. So really what the structure of it is. So the whole basis of my existence is to network first and sell last, basically. And so any meeting I go into with anybody, and hopefully anybody who's met with me in those kinds of one-on-one settings can attest to this, I definitely come in with my networking hat. I do not ever come in with my sales hat unless I've been told, we want your product, can you please come pitch it? I mean, then of course I come in with a presentation.
Right.
I mean, that's a different thing, but 90% of my meetings for work and for networking, I come in literally just wanting to hear what they're working on.
Right.
What's new, what's exciting, what do they care about, what's happening. I am not coming in my mind or my heart wanting to sell anything. And I think that's why I've had great success in networking. And it's 100%. Not even something that I planned out. I wasn't like, okay, here's my agenda. I'm going to go and I'm going to pretend like I care about networking. I actually really care about networking. And that's really what the course tries to get down to, is you need to get in the headspace where you actually do care.
Right.
And sales is not your first foot forward.
Right.
But it will come naturally when you share passionately what you're doing. And the course also goes into, and if you're not passionate about what you're doing, it will come off as that you're not, and you will not sell anything. So you really need to actually genuinely care about what you're doing.
Yep.
And when you communicate that in a networking setting, people will pick up on it and they'll get excited with you, but you can't fake these things. And so that's a big part of the course.
Oh, well, that is good to know, and I'm looking forward to signing up and taking the course myself.
Awesome.
I think there's always something to learn. ChatGPT?
Yes. Now that ChatGPT knows you have a course, we're excited to ask you a question.
Oh, yay.
What is the biggest mistake salespeople make that your course helps fix? I know you kind of talked a little bit about it, but is there anything else?
So I think the biggest mistake is establishing these great networking relationships, and then never following up on them. So there's a lot of people who do one-time hits, and it's sometimes even just when they're job seeking, which is even worse, and I have a chapter on that. Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't go out asking, taking, only when you're job seeking. But for the people who are earnestly trying to network, and you find someone that you click with, you find your people, you find that you have a mutual exchange of good information, and you have a synergy that's really cool, You need to set like quarterly meetings with these people, or twice a year, once a year, anything on a cadence. That's the biggest mistake that salespeople and networkers make, is literally dropping the ball on common sense follow-up, like not actually keeping those relationships and fostering them, because that's how you get a relationship, is by growing it and hanging out and getting to know somebody. That's how you do it. And if you don't want to put the time in, you're not going to get those beneficial relationships that serve you in your life, your relationships, your work. I'm not just talking about selling here. I'm talking about life in general. So it's really, I think that's the biggest mistake, is the dropping of the ball and not kind of following up on those cool connections and just walking away and then, okay, moving on with my day, instead of being intentional about setting up a cadence of meeting more times and staying in touch.
Yeah.
I have one more question. And then how does AI play a role in the strategies taught in your course? Is there a role played with AI?
Yep. So in my course, I talk a lot about being intentional, like I said, about why you're doing stuff. You know, if you have field activity or events you're going to, you should know your why before you're spending your time. And in order to figure out where you're going and what you're doing, AI has a huge part in that. And that's kind of why I have that chapter in there, is the research that you can do beforehand to make sure you're doing the right things. So AI does like touch all of that. And like I said, it's kind of ironic because the course is really about in-person, personal relationships, not about anything that's digitized or AI, but AI is a supporter of all those things, because you can research and foster those relationships by coming in informed and making sure you show that you really care and you did your research and you really want to know more about them. And so AI now is such a great tool in helping us prep for those things. So it kind of underlies everything, but really my course is not at all about AI, but it's just a helper. So.
Sure, it's a tool, and you know, it becomes extremely useful in prospecting, and then writing proposals. You know,
absolutely,
it absolutely does a great job on all of those things. And then you can always use AI, any LLM, to really help you, even if you get mental blocks on, hey, I'm not sure exactly how to solve this problem. You know, whatever, a prospect or somebody is working on. Because the biggest thing, in sales that I find is that people really need to ask, hey, what are your business challenges? And just like I can see you sitting down, like when you're saying, like, whenever I go in, it's not about me selling my services, it's about listening and learning what they're doing right and what they're doing well. And then, hey, where are the gaps? How can we help you, so to speak, And that's where AI, like, if you don't know, you could use AI as a good resource. And I know that is extremely useful because a lot of us do use it. Billie, I do have one thing. That when she was talking about networking events and the power of networking, like one networking event that you and your company do is great people helping great people. And can you tell the audience a little bit more about that event and why it's so successful and why so many people from different backgrounds come?
Yeah, so it actually started before I even started, which was SafeNet Consulting at one time. Now it's Elias. And we had a director level in IT in transition. And so her and my colleague before, Jen Granner, they had an idea of putting people together that are in transition and people that are just wanting to network and get to know more people. So what helps these people in transition is just obviously the networking, and we're supporting them. So we just had a gathering last week, and now we have a friend of mine that's found a job, and she said, Billie, I'm so excited. You've helped me so much. I'm so excited to tell you that I found a new job, and now she will use us. So I mean, and like you said, it's not selling or what what can they do for me? It's giving.
Yeah.
It will always come back. It's a circle.
It really is.
That's the biggest purpose about great people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have met a couple great people at these events who are now, like, I'm working on different projects with them right now. And it's all because I went to these events with you, and then you get to meet other great people. And it's amazing how that circle expands, because then other people bring other people they know that they find of value, that they think they contribute to the group. And that's the power of networking, right? Is where you start something. And I think you guys meet, on a quarterly basis?
No, every 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's a very laid back environment. You know how sometimes you can go to a networking event and you're like, even me, I'm in sales. I love people. And you go to some of these events, I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
this is just kind of intimidating.
Yes.
Right.
The people that are having these events, they need to be mindful of that. And how do you set it up where it's just more relaxed and you just can have comfortable conversations?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, well, you mentioned that when people are out seeking work, what is like the number one thing that you find that people do that is like cringeworthy, like that you shouldn't do, like the biggest faux pas?
You know what? I feel like people are being more mindful of that these days. They're always asking, how can I help you? I don't want to just come and have this conversation knowing that you know I need work, but how can I help you? So I would say, if they don't say that, it's just a good thing to be mindful of that. So I think that's the biggest point right there.
I agree, and that's part of my course too, is talking about don't be the person that only networks when you're looking for a job, because the people who are serial networkers who really care and who are actually in it will be able to pick up on that too and say, well, okay, this person all of a sudden wants to talk to me, and they've never tried to network with me before or anybody else. And all so I think that just cements the fact that networking around the clock is so important, because then when you do become in a situation where you need something, you have people that will help you. And also
Absolutely.
you're not coming in as an opportunist, just wanting something and taking. So there's part of my course about be sure you're always giving and sharing and not taking, and maybe taking last or not at all. And so anyway, that's my feedback on that. And I do think you're right. I mean, people are becoming more mindful of that, because probably they've been told, wow, nice of you to come out of the woodwork when you need a job, and then you know, that kind of thing. So I do think people are getting smarter about widely networking and keeping it up.
I also feel like the tech community is such a connected community. The people who are really the movers and shakers, the different CIOs, and then the people who work within these organizations really do try to like connect with others, the leadership group of all of these. And then there's so many different great tech groups to get plugged into that if you are brand new and you don't know where to begin, the best thing is to talk to somebody within your company and ask, hey, give me 2 or 3 ideas of like different groups that you find value.
Absolutely. And that really I hate to keep saying part of my course, but part of the course is figuring out like the events where you click, like you said, some of them you go in and you're like, this is uncomfortable. These are not my people. I don't feel right about it. And you're right. I mean, John, asking people which ones are cool, and you kind of know the vibe of that person. So you're like, hey, which ones do you like? It cuts down on your research time of going to the wrong stuff. And that's part of the process in my training too, is like, let's notate ones you went to and why it was successful, why it wasn't. Are you going to go again? Why? And then you can mark that off your list and move forward and spend the time on the ones that really fit you and your personality and your brand. So it all just kind of ties together. But
Yeah.
And I would say also by the giving part, there are so many people that I've talked to introduce them to others, even competitors, because I just want to see them do well. They do part of my work. They talk about me. They talk about Eliason. They introduce me to other people that could be a potential client. So it is a full circle.
yeah, if you actually have a giving heart, and people will know that you do, and that will just bring the good vibes back. And that's what I've found is like I leave a networking meeting knowing I helped somebody, and I didn't pitch necessarily a certain product or service at all, but then they end up referring me to people that end up needing something. And so it's like, and that wasn't my intent, but it's just a benefit of having that open heart when you go into networking situations. People just know you are. And
Yeah.
So
Well, what do you feel the importance of even volunteering for different charities? Like, do you think how would you rate that importance?
So in the course, there's actually a kind of a matrix you can follow that helps you figure out where you should be spending your time networking-wise, philanthropy, education, community, other things like that. So it helps you kind of map that out. So that is to reflect the importance that I find in doing all those things. So it doesn't mean you have to do everything, but you should find your thing. Find your thing that you care about and dive into it. And there should be some philanthropy. There should be some networking. There should be some business development. There should be some, it might be church or spiritual or education or other things. And that's super important. I mean, I think if you're called on to do that kind of thing, you should be doing it. And that just brings more depth to your networking and your network, and not just for work once again, or not just for selling, but for your life in general. It really enriches things. So I'm a huge fan of volunteering and philanthropy. Like, I think it's a huge piece of the puzzle.
You know, like, do you want to shout out to anybody that you're involved in, any great groups?
So right now I am a volunteer for Bethel Biz. So I got my MBA at Bethel University.
Oh, nice.
And I help mentor business and technology leaders coming up through the university. So I've done that for, I think, 7 or 8 years now. And usually they give me the women in technology, which is really cool. So I get the girls that are, freshmen, sophomore, juniors that are looking to get into high-tech roles possibly, or technical sales or something along those lines. And they're always like, oh, Allie's the go-to for that. Let's match these guys up. So I've had such a great time doing that. It's such a cool program, really fostering these students up into internships and jobs in an environment where it's kind of hard right now for young people. I mean, it's just a weird economy and things are strange. So I'm a big fan of Bethel Biz. That's something I'm helping out with currently.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, Billie, I know that you do charity work. Like, do you want to give a shout out to some of the things that you participate in?
Yeah, so super exciting event coming up February 20th. It's called Tech She Rose. It is focused on women's health and wellness. So women in leadership in tech. There will be a ton of women involved. I think it will be around 200 attendees.
Wow.
There's on our committee, there's probably about 8 of us women. We've been working really hard. It's going to be exciting. If you are interested in looking at it, we can post something just to.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the description.
Yes. Yep.
Cool.
That's awesome. Nice. Well, I know for myself, I do volunteer work at Feed My Starving Children. I've been doing stuff with them for many, many, many years. And in the last few years, been going to more and more events through the American Cancer Society. Cancer touches all of our lives in so many different ways, and I've definitely been enjoying doing that and giving back to the community, and also working with others who also do that. So it's like minds doing like-minded things, and I think that's what's missing is sometimes again if you're just starting out in sales and you're just getting into it, is to make sure you're really genuine, and like you said before, pick something that, is up your alley, because otherwise people see through it,
Absolutely.
If you're just like filling a time card or checking a box on the to-do list, everybody's going to see that.
Absolutely. I think just in our culture and with the advent of AI and all these tools around us, it makes us even more focused on people being genuine. It's so important.
Yeah. Moving forward, in the sales process, one of the big things is using AI to automate some of the sales process. What are your thoughts on that? Do you like that AI is now able to do, cold calls, emails, all these things? Do you like these tools, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I really do think automating menial tasks is so important to keep people in good spirits when they're doing their job. Nobody wants to do manual work. Nobody wants to do menial tasks. Nobody wants to write the same form email over and over again. Like, literally nobody. I mean, maybe there's somebody, but I doubt it. And so I feel great about it. Like I said, I do think the human touch will always be important. But this just allows us more time to volunteer, more time to go to networking events, more time to make those true personal connections with people, which will then result in better networking, deeper networks, more sales, a better life, better quality of life. And so I'm a huge fan of it. I mean, I do think we all, as sales professionals or anybody out kind of talking about an idea, needs to keep a human touch on emails, verbiage, wording, style, feelings. And I think that should be the case always with AI. I mean, you never should be taking it at face value, but as far as automating like sales process stuff, it's so cool. I mean, the things that AI can do now are so cool as far as like taking an inbound lead, figuring out how it should be classified, figuring out how to reply, putting it into the CRM, moving it through the pipeline. I mean, that's somewhat simplistic and not always applicable, but it can do all those things now. And I don't know anybody that would complain about that, especially somebody who has that as part of their job. I mean, I know I am definitely the classic personality type of someone who would be like a field sales hunter. And all I want to do is be in front of either networking friends and partners or in front of a prospect. Like, I would rather not be at my desk and touching a computer the whole day, basically. And I know that I'm not alone in that because it is a type. And I'm not saying I'm proud of it. I'm just saying it's how I'm wired. And so I think it's excellent. I mean, taking out low order menial tasks, letting me work on, higher brain, higher order things where I can actually be using my skill set and not wasting my time is super cool and valuable.
It really is. And, part of that is when you get plugged into doing events, whether that's within your community or other giving back ways, I see you doing speaking events. I see you doing roundtables. I've seen you do lunch and learns, whether they're small events, big events. Whenever there's people willing to get together and share ideas and help each other, and also just connection, it's part of what I feel like when the remote work was happening, and that was a big thing that got lost. Mm-hmm. But now there's been a shift, and it's nice to see people out and about and doing different things and connecting in a real way that we feel was on pause for a little bit there, but.
Definitely. I do think that the pandemic gave us more desire for human connection, actually. I mean, it did cause us all to be socially slowed down for a while. I think we needed to kind of recalibrate and get back into it again. But actually, when I'm working myself on just getting networking meetings, I usually use LinkedIn to do that. That's usually what I say is since COVID, nobody's going out and doing stuff. I want to start doing stuff. Do you want to get together and catch up?
Right.
Basically is my pitch, and it's not a sales pitch, it's a networking pitch. And it's really cool seeing the people who accept and the people who don't, because there's still a group of people that are hesitant to go out and get back into the world. But I would say a large majority of people are like, yeah, okay. And I would tell you something really cool. So I do probably over 100 networking meetings a year.
Wow.
And almost all of them said, thank you so much for asking me to do this and to come out for lunch or coffee or whatever, because I've been really hesitating to get back out in the world, and I'm so glad that you wrote me. I'm it's just the coolest feeling to help somebody break the seal and get past that hesitance, because all of us had it and our kids had it where they're like, wait, we're supposed to go back out and talk to people. It was so dysfunctional and so weird. And so that was something really cool. I just get goosebumps thinking about it, because it's just really cool hearing people say I'm so glad that you wrote me, because I've been really hesitating to get back into networking, and I'm so glad that we did this. And I'm it's just the best feeling,
Yep.
And so there is a tide turning definitely on people coming back, and I think valuing those relationships even more now. It's totally different. People are whoa, this is valuable. I actually care now. Let's talk. And so I find I'm having way deeper discussions with people about my work, about their work, about personal stuff, about whatever might be happening in the world.
Yeah.
It's way deeper and it's way better. So I so value those connections. So all of you that might be watching this who have had those coffees or lunches with me, thank you. It's definitely enriched my life, and it's just so fun, maybe being a catalyst to helping people get back out into the world again and function as humans and talk to each other. And so.
Well, nobody does it better. I've gone to multiple events with you. You work a room like nobody's business. You're extremely professional and very good at saying hello to everybody.
Thank you.
And finding out about people and their stories and just connecting. It's I always learn something, and I'm like, wow, you are so good.
Well, I feel the same about you.
Yeah. Well. So in your course, what would you say was either the hardest or most challenging part of your course to write? What was the part that took the longest to put together?
So I don't know how this will sound, but so much of it is inherent to me and how I am, how I move, how I do things, and it's just how I am. And I never sat out to I'm going to have this huge plot to be a good communicator and to be a good networker. And in fact, I never meant to be in sales. I mean, this is all accidental, by the way. I didn't plan for this. And so it was just hard to put the best practices that I already do and that are so inherent to me and so natural into a presentation, social cue type things and like the feel of things. Like, here's the vibe that you want when you find your people, and here's what you don't want. And just like typing it out and having to like explain it.
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah.
It reminds me of my days working in for certain tech consulting companies I won't name because I don't want to call people out, but I had very technical SMEs, and I would have to be like, listen, like, you need to pay attention to the person that's rolling their eyes, or if they start looking at their computer and they're not paying attention to you. Or so it got to the point where I'd kick them under the table or something to be like, hey, you need to stop talking, or hey, pay attention, or or look at that guy's expression, or something along those lines. So it's like, I am an intuitive, and it's like these things are just natural to me, where I can sense what people are thinking and where they're going with something. It's just, so then you have to like type those things out. Okay, here are things to watch out for. Here are cues. Here's the best way to go about this. And it's not like I think about those things every day. Like, okay, what's my plan, for my networking meeting today? Like, no, I just go and I do it. So it was really interesting trying to like systematize what I do and why I've been successful into like words and explaining. But it was actually really fun instructing. Like, I never really realized how much I liked like sharing information and instructing.
Yeah.
But I realized I had something valuable for the world and valuable to share that is special. It's just I never thought of it as special because it's just like it's just how I am.
Right.
I don't see it as special, but I saw that it could maybe fill a void for some people. So the hardest part, like I said, was probably just like putting it to words and like systematizing it. Like,
Yeah.
And then after you do this, you should then do this, and it's like, to me, it's like, well, obviously that's what you should do, but
Right.
that's not obvious. And so it was really cool, like really putting it into a system and like being able to put it down on paper basically so other people can follow the best practices that made me successful and do it themselves.
Now, what was the most money in sales that you had in 1 year?
Like as far as a sale or?
Yeah, combined for a whole year. Like, what's the highest?
Like sales volume? Mm-hmm. Probably like 150 million.
150 million?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's amazing.
That would be my estimate. To some people, though, that's small.
Of
like
course.
if you work at IBM and you sell $1 million systems all day long, I mean, but in what I do in sales consulting, that's probably my best volume.
Wow. Now, what would be one piece of advice you could give your younger self about what you're doing today? If you could give it, what would you say?
I mean, I've been networking deeply for a long time now, but I wish I would have started sooner. And that really gets to the heart of this course is like at that age when you're first out of college or even in college and you need to start networking, it's the worst. Like you walk into stuff and you like Billy said, you walk into a room and you're like, oh, like who are all these people, all these suits? I don't even know anybody here. So I wish I would have like jumped into that a bit sooner. And so I'm training up my kids that way, and I take them to stuff and make them go and meet 5 people at each event or whatever, just so they can get in the practice. But I do wish I could have like told my younger self to just jump into that like as a 20-year-old and start going to networking events and just walk in. And because that's all the sooner that you just don't care anymore. It's not scary. That's the trick. And that's part of my training too, is like, it's not scary. Like you just have to get kicked around a little and do it. And then it's easy. So I wish I would have known that sooner. I could have broadened my network even more. And I don't know how that would have affected my career or other things. So I wish I would have done more of that.
Got it. I mean, a lot of people, when I talk to them, there's some people that are not a big fan of small talk. They feel like it's very disingenuous and they just get bored. Mm-hmm. And then there's other people who are very good at small talk. You know, they can talk about the weather, they can talk about a trip coming up or what have you. You know, what would you say for people who do not like small talk, you know, when they're meeting different people? They just don't like it. They feel like disconnected. What would you say to them?
I would say don't do it then. And that's really, I think, another thing that I just do naturally that I never thought about, but then I put it in my training because I was like, I guess this is special. I don't do small talk. I mean, I might say like, where are you from or where do you work? Okay, cool. Then immediately, just inherently, I want to know like, what are you working on? Like, what's important? What's happening that's important right now?
Right.
So that's just naturally what I do, and that's what I would tell people who hate those things is then just don't be talking about the weather, don't talk about sports. Just be like, hey, like what was a breakthrough you had last month, or what cool things are your kids doing, or something way deeper. And that's I think how I foster relationships is because I just naturally want to know those things. So I just ask the questions, and then I don't, not for any agenda, just because I really want to know.
Yeah.
So that would be my tip, is just don't participate in small talk. And you can easily just redirect, by saying, well, that's cool that you work there. Cool. Well, how about, what's one of your top successes of 2024? What's,
Sure.
Then you really get to the root of their values and what they care about. And that's what you want to know about them anyway. You
Right.
want to know about the weather. So
Right.
it's it just helps everybody get closer faster and get to the heart of what matters.
Yeah. And, part of sales is even also riding the wave, because you're going to have really high highs, like when you sold 150 million in 1 year, and then you're going to have really low lows, and when people are at the bottom of the cycle instead of the top of the cycle, what's the biggest piece of advice that you would give somebody who's struggling to push through, who either, hasn't had a sale in a long time, or they're just questioning their own values and beliefs? Mm-hmm. What would you say to those people who are, really mentally struggling?
So it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Because in this depressed economy we're in right now, almost every leading sales rep that I run around with and I know locally here, we all kind of keep each other in the know of what's going on. Everybody is struggling right now with sales. So what you said resonates with me actually personally, and almost every other top sales rep I know, because it's just slow. Everybody's slower in spending, slower in their decisions, being conservative, seeing what happens. Everything is a little weird right now for literally everybody I talk to. My advice would be the same advice that I give to my sales teams, which is you always have to be building your pipeline.
Sure.
And even when you're down in the dumps or you think you have a big win coming, that's when you actually should be building. When you think you have a big sale coming is when you should be building. It's not when you sit back. You need to always be doing that. And I would have the same approach to networking. So I would say when things are down and slow, that's your time to actually go to more networking events. You're not maybe in the field as much and things are a little slower and you might be kind of down in the dumps. But I find that networking and being in the field brings such a great energy to all of us and to everybody, where you can then take that energy and put it toward maybe your prospecting or your job or something. It reinvigorates you. Yeah. And pulling out of those things when you're down or things are slower is just about the worst thing you can do. Just like sitting on your resting on your laurels when you should be building your pipeline. You shouldn't be chilling when you think you've got a full pipe. That's actually when you need to double it. Right. It's not time to relax.
Right.
So that's what I would say about these times when things are a little slower in our economy or in commerce in general, is that's when you should be running around like a maniac, meeting as many people as you can, right, and planting as many seeds as you can, because before you know it, it's going to pick back up again, right, and all those seeds you planted are going to come to fruition. So I think about the worst thing you could do is to kind of get lost in the down in the dump stuff and use that energy to just get out in the field, go to networking stuff, meet people. You never know what you might find out and how it might help you in the future or now even. So yeah. I think it's just a day brightener in general. So I'm a big fan of doubling down when things are slow.
Yeah. But how do you push through that? Let's say if you have a boss or a sales manager who's just you don't even want to talk to them because there hasn't been any new activity, and this is the last time you spoke with them, whether it's a week or 2 weeks or once a month or however often you do your check-ins. What would you say to those people who are really just grinding it, but also in their head, they're just extremely frustrated with the process?
So this is exactly what I say to my current sales leadership in my job right now, is that all we can do is plant seeds. All we can do is have activity when it's like this. Mm-hmm. So that's your only measure of success, is having activity. So I would tell them to be in the field, be talking to people, document everybody you talk to, document every event you go to, sure, document all the prospecting, and that's your answer. Your answer is things are slow right now and things are a little weird, but I'm seed planting like crazy, and here's all the proof of me doing that. Here's all the documentation of the cool people I've been out meeting and the important people I've been telling our story to. Right. And that's all I can do right now because things are slow, and that's what I'm doing. So here's my activity. So I would say in times like this, you trade in activity in place of sales until things pick up. Because if you don't have activity and you don't have sales, you got a big problem. In fact, you should probably be looking for a different job.
Right.
So
yeah, if you don't have either one.
yeah, I would say just focus on documenting the metrics around the activity you're doing and the seed planting you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's really all you can do when things are a bit weird, is just make sure you're doing the work and the rest will follow.
Right. And that activity even includes volunteer work.
Absolutely.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. In fact, when I do volunteering work, sometimes I will interface with someone that we end up talking about work.
Sure.
It's not often, and I don't go into it with that intent, but I will document those kinds of conversations in my CRM. I was volunteering for Feed My Starving Children. I ran into a lady from Cargill, and she worked in the marketing area, and she was really interested in learning more about what online business system does in AI.
Yeah.
I put it in my CRM
Why
because
not?
it was a business interaction. So
Right.
these touch points are just an opportunity for you to get leads, plant seeds, and that's your job. Is you're
Right.
supposed to be out evangelizing,
Right.
and that's what you're doing. So that's what you would report back.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I like that tagline. Get leads, plant seeds.
Yeah, I think we're onto something. Let's
love it.
Let's name this podcast that. That's awesome.
That is awesome. That is awesome. All right, cool. A couple of things I just want to circle back on is the one thing is that the course that you have, is it like a 10-week course, or is it at your own pace course? Can you describe a little bit more about, what people can expect?
Yeah, so you can get the course done in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And what I did was made it sort of around like changing your paradigm, changing your landscape in 30 days. So that's kind of the basis of the course. It's not super lengthy, and it's not anything that's going to take months or anything along those lines. But it is something that kind of gives you these benchmarks to change your ecosystem in 30 days. So if you're stuck, so I kind of think of the course as being for a few different kinds of people, like founders turned sellers. So tech founders or other entrepreneurial people that all of a sudden are the mouthpiece of their company and they know nothing about sales. So now they're a salesperson. Bam. You get the crown, you're a salesperson. So it's for that kind of person. It's for seasoned sales reps, like you said, that are stuck. Mm-hmm. Like someone like me, even when things are slow, it's like, oh, what can I do to change things up to keep plugging forward?
Sure.
Or newbies and people who want to be professional salespeople or prospectors. So all those people coming together, would probably really like the course. But
Yeah.
It is really like it's a 30-day plan, sort of, to start documenting your intentions, why you're doing certain things, what results you're getting, and whether you should double down on those things or not. So really helping you systematize things and gamify. So that's a lot of my courses, like, how can we make this fun? Like, can we gamify this? Like, for example, one of the parts of my course is talking about how when you go to an event, you need to gamify it by saying, I'm going to meet 9 people. It brings some excitement to it, makes it less boring, and
Yeah.
it's like a game. You're like, okay. I mean, some people really need that right now to like bust out of
Sure.
the monotony of things being slower, and it's just, so there's a lot of that gamifying stuff. But yeah, it's mostly something you can get done in a couple of weeks, and it's to really give you like a 30-day plan, and then you can take that 30-day plan and put it out over many months then and replicate it, the worksheets and other things that come with it. So.
And what I like is if you do get stuck, even within the course, you offer the one-to-one consulting, coaching, that you're more than willing to help out anybody who's taking the course and wants to, have that personalized touch. You're like literally putting your, mouth, right where it needs to be. You not just talk the talk, but you walk the walk, and you're willing to, like, I'm here for you, which is pretty awesome.
I tried to make it like really affordable too. I've seen a lot of these like sales and prospecting courses that are like $5,000 and stuff. And I was like, how about we make it like $100 because then the college kid could take it.
Yeah.
And of course any modules I add,
Yeah.
they'll just get automatically. They have lifetime membership to the course. So like whatever I end up adding, they could go in and look at it. So I tried to make it really attainable so that anybody can get it and it's not a giant investment. But if people do want more in-depth help, or if they have an actual like business problem where they need help with a go-to-market plan or productizing something, I do a little consulting stuff on the side here and there to help people with that kind of stuff too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, we have another segment for you that I like on the show, and it's called the Fast Five of AI.
Oh no, not again.
Yes? No, we have 5 more questions for you.
Here we go.
Well, I feel like ChatGPT is a little bit of a rebel today, so I'm going to switch it up just a little bit.
Oh boy.
Ooh, we're getting different.
It's not the Fast 5, it's the Fast 8.
Oh no. You guys got to help me.
But I also was wondering, thinking, I wanted to think of some words that kind of made me think of you. So my 4 words for you, actually it's kind of 5 words, but sales, success, motherhood, travel, and fashion.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to do 2 from each. So we'll start with the first one. Biggest sales win ever.
So I would say my biggest sales win was probably for a very large med tech device manufacturer here in Minneapolis, where I won a very large multi-year project, but to win it, I had to get about 22 decision makers to agree. So I had to have multiple meetings and set strategic meetings with all different groups, departments, committees, setting the table each time with different decision makers, influencers, and it was a very long process. It was about a year-long process, and I did end up winning it. That's probably my biggest win yet to date because it was so complex and it was very large and multi-year, but it took not just one decision maker, but multiple departments, multiple committees to get it done. So that's probably one of my biggest wins.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Amazing.
That is
Thank you.
cool.
All right. How about worst client excuse for ghosting you?
Oh man, there's probably a lot of them. Sales is fun, let me tell you.
My kid is sick. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, actually, I have a good one around that, but I don't want to talk about it on here. I'll tell you later.
We'll do it off air.
Yeah, exactly.
Off camera.
Yeah. I would say there have been a couple where it was just very incredulous, like I fell off a horse. That's a good one. I had that one once, and a really important one back when I worked in Staff Aug. The person you never know the truth to these things, and we hope everybody has good intentions, but it seemed like very incredulous to me that they fell off a horse. So that was a fun one.
Gosh. Very creative, if it wasn't true.
Very creative. I mean, A+ for creativity.
Oh my gosh. Okay, motherhood. Most used phrase with your kids. Can you say it online?
I really very much don't use vulgarity around my kids, and I've really tried to, because I know they just would pick it up as habit, so I try not to swear, but I would say probably change your attitude.
Oh, I love
so
that.
it's ever since they were 2, and they were come into the day with a little chip or something, I'd be like, change your attitude. And sometimes it would be just go to your room, you're not being punished, just come out when you're ready. So change your attitude, just go. And then when you're ready, you come out, and with the changed attitude. So yeah, change your attitudes are top. Still, even now that they're older.
So your next course will be on motherhood.
For sure.
I'm excited.
For sure.
I know. Sign up for that.
Okay, so we did say fast 8, so we have to we got to be a
Gotta
little bit
cruise it
quicker.
along. Okay.
Okay, one more for motherhood. Best lesson kids have taught you.
Patience.
I love that one. Perfect. Favorite city you visited?
London.
All right. What would be your dream vacation? What location?
Probably to go back to England, but not do London again. I've done that a few times now, but just take trains and go out to the smaller little villages and towns. Mm-hmm. That would be wonderful.
Okay. Well, fashion, which you don't know, Allie. If you don't know Allie, she always has amazing bags, amazing outfits, amazing shoes. Always fashioned up. So how about this one? Fashion rule you always break.
Conventions. So I very much think people should do what they want.
Okay. I love that. One accessory you can't live without.
Probably my laptop bag. It's pretty sad.
Well, it is a cute laptop bag, so I agree. All right. That's the Fast 8.
Thank
Eight
you.
this week. Yeah. I love it. Talking about the fashion, how many pairs of shoes do you own?
I have downsized since moving a couple times, but it was close to 400.
Oh, my God.
It's much lower now. It's
Lower.
It's probably closer to 200.
Wow, you really cut back. You
know.
You only have 2 feet, but hey, that's okay. It's only 7 days a week.
Right.
But
Hey,
yeah,
they all
200
have
to
to use.
400, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. And you weren't even collecting them as sneakers. These are actual shoes you would wear.
It's true.
So, well, we appreciate you coming back to the studio, meeting with us, talking about AI and also what you've been working on. I can't wait to check out the course myself. And for people who are listening or watching, can you tell everybody again the URL of how to find the course?
Yes, so there is going to be a link below, but it is, let's make sure I have it here correctly. I don't want to mess it up. It's StanStore/Prowess Sales Training.
Prowess Sales Training. How did you come up with Prowess?
I just really like the idea of having sales prowess and really being well-rounded and experienced. And so I thought it was a nice, powerful word for that to help people gain their sales prowess. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And also, you're on LinkedIn. That's another great way. Ali Farnsworth will make sure to tag you and everything as well. And for everybody watching, thank you. We appreciate you tuning in. And you can follow us further to leave your comments or questions on the show. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also, of course, you could just reach out and message us that way through email or our websites. Everything's going to be in the description. And thanks again for tuning in. And that's another show of Ask Clever Over Coffee, How AI Built This.